You will demolish my house and you want me just to go out.
This is Alaa Hathleen.
This is my home. This is my home.
Alaa and his family live in the south of the occupied West Bank, in an area called Masafiyata, where Palestinian agricultural communities have lived for generations. In February, Alaa woke up to the sound of Israeli military bulldozers.
See them like in front of my eyes, and they're starting demolishing my house, destroying everything, leaving me and 14 members of my family homeless.
There was no warning. And Alaa is one of thousands who have been displaced from their homes in the occupied West Bank in this year alone.
Israel occupies the Jordan's West Bank.
The West Bank was captured by Israel in 1967, and it has been central to the conflict ever since.
Israel occupies the Jordan's West Bank, and thousands of Arab...
For decades, nearly 3 million Palestinians have been living here under Israeli military rule, facing frequent attacks and intimidation, as well as Israeli settlements expanding throughout the territory. The conflict escalated on the 7th of October 2023, when Hamas militants attacked Israel.
The biggest loss of life in a single day in Israeli history.
In response, Israel bombarded Gaza, and all eyes were on the war that followed. But at the same time, Israel increased its operations in the occupied West Bank. These operations in the occupied West Bank intensified earlier this year after a temporary ceasefire was agreed in Gaza. The day after fighting paused, the Israeli government announced Operation Iron Wall, aimed at bolstering security in Judea and Samaria. These are the names given to the West Bank by Israel. For the first time in 2 decades, Israel deployed tanks to the region, along with an increase in demolitions, raids, and Palestinian deaths. All of this has led to human rights groups calling Israel's most recent activity the Gazification of the West Bank.
What we're seeing in the occupied West Bank is increasing use of tactics that cause death and devastation in Gaza. So that's a rise in airstrikes to unprecedented levels, a loosening of the rules of engagement, the conditions under which Israeli forces can risk civilian deaths during an attack, whether that's with missiles or guns. Another one is the destruction of homes. It's been a feature of Israel's occupation of the West Bank for a long time, for instance with armoured bulldozers, but we're seeing mass demolitions using explosives.
These tactics have been particularly apparent in the north, in mass refugee camps, where in February 40,000 people were displaced in one of Israel's most intense raids.
Many of them say they were ordered to leave with very little notice. Some of them were given perhaps an hour, some of them were given no time. They left with little more than the clothes on their back. We spoke to the family of a 73-year-old man who was shot dead when he went back or tried to go back to his house to collect warm clothes for his grandchildren. We haven't seen that many people displaced from their homes since Israel occupied the West Bank in 1967.
Israel calls this counter-terrorism and said its operations were to ensure the security of the residents and citizens of Israel. But some members of its government have been very clear that they want a complete Israeli annexation of the West Bank. For those displaced in the north, Israel's defense minister has said they will not be allowed back to their homes until the end of the year.
Given that many of these people are refugees from what is current day Israel, there's a generational fear that they might not be allowed back to these homes, that what the Israeli government is now saying is a year could become forever.
For Alaa and his family, their future's unclear. Since their home was demolished, they have been unable to rebuild, and they've been living in a tent ever since.
It's not just a home, it's everything. They demolish our memories, they demolish our families. You don't feel safe in your home. Where you should feel safe if you didn't feel safe in your home?